Ladies and gentlemen, some breaking news coming out of the National League today sees former Bradford City manager Mark Hughes leave Carlisle United by mutual agreement. And in today's video, we're going to talk all things Mark Hughes, Carlisle, and how do the Cumbrian-based side get back up into the Football League next season. If you do go on to enjoy today's video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hype the video as well. Get your thoughts in down below. What do you think is next for Carlisle United? Let's waste no further time though and get straight into it. Now, the statement from Carlisle is pretty short and sweet. It reads, Carlisle United can confirm that Mark Hughes has left his position at head coach by mutual agreement. The club would like to place on record its sincere thanks to Mark for his professionalism, commitment, and leadership during his time at Brunton Park. Last season marked significant progress, with the side finishing third in the Enterprise National League with 95 points and reaching the playoffs. While everyone connected with the club was disappointed not to achieve promotion, Mark played an important part in stabilising the team and helping to move the club forward. Then you've got some comments as well from the chairman, which is not really relevant to this video because obviously I'm not a Carlisle fan, so it doesn't matter that much. But it continues to say the club will make a further announcement regarding the head coach position in due course. So I think it's not a reach to say that Carlisle obviously haven't come to a final decision of who their next head coach is, so hopefully by the end of today's video we might have some idea of who it potentially could be. As was previously touched on in that article, Carlisle finished third in the National League with 95 points. 4 teams hit the 90 point mark in the National League last season, and that's why there's obviously the big argument for 3 up at 3 down. Me personally, doesn't affect me as a Bradford City fan, but who doesn't want to see more promotions and relegations, more jeopardy on the line? It just makes football more entertaining. I did watch Carlisle's playoff match against Boreham Wood, and I thought they were deservedly beaten in that game. They were the home side, but they were so passive in the way that they just allowed Boreham Wood to run through their side, and I didn't think there was much of a team cohesion with Carlisle United. I think that might be a little bit of a problem. Carlisle fans, let me know down below. Has that been a case this season? I've watched a couple of the Carlisle games. I remember when they played Blackpool in the FA Cup, for example. I watched that game as well, and I feel like there's, in the season that's just gone by, a lot of individualism in that Carlisle side and not really much kind of team spirit and togetherness, and we're all in this together. And that was very similar to how Bradford City were managed, I would say, in my opinion, when Mark Hughes was also our manager there. We were heavily reliant on the season when we finished in the playoffs on Andy Cook, who scored 31 goals that season in all competitions. You could maybe kind of look that towards Regan Linney this season of Carlisle United, although Cook was much more consistent, and we'll come on to Regan Linney later on in today's video. But I do think, from certainly my personal experience of a Mark Hughes football team, it relies on a lot of individual moments rather than kind of doing it as a team, if that makes sense. You know, there's not really much defensive stability. It happened a lot when he was managing Bradford City that we would go 1 goal up, we'd then try and sit on that and inevitably concede a lot of late goals. Again, I'm not 100% sure if that has happened at Carlisle this season, but obviously in the end they have decided to go in a different direction, and I really can't say that I disagree with it, to be honest. There's some good players in that Carlisle side and they should be doing a lot better. Looking at somebody like a Georgie Kelly, for example, he's now coming into the final year of his contract at Carlisle. I'm pretty sure he signed for the club when they were a League One side and obviously now are a National League side. I know a lot has been said about Kelly with injuries and all that sort of stuff, but he managed 37 games last season and got 15 goal contributions. I really don't think that is a bad return whatsoever. You even look at somebody like a Luke Armstrong, who also got 15 goal contributions last season in a couple more matches, but it's not really worked out on the whole for Armstrong at Carlisle so far, when he just come off the back of 2 really good seasons with Harrogate Town in the Football League. Since he's moved to Carlisle, hasn't really worked. He's even had a spell in Scotland with Motherwell. So a question to Carlisle fans: do you think that you can have both Kelly and Armstrong in the squad? Should you be starting both of those as 2 striking options as a front 2? Do you think you should be changing each game and starting one for a Saturday game and then starting the other for a Tuesday game, for example? Or do you think you need to pick one and cut ties with the other and try and go in a different direction? Because again, Luke Armstrong is now into the final year of his contract. They are both now 29 years of age, but obviously Luke Armstrong has his birthday coming up and Georgie Kelly's is not for another couple of months as well. So let me know down below. There's a bit of a striker conundrum at Carlisle. If you could only keep one striker out of Kelly and Armstrong, who would that be? And obviously you look at the Carlisle squad. I know Gabe Breeze had a really poor season by his standards, but can be a good goalkeeper on his day. Defensively, I really did think Carlisle were very vulnerable with the likes of Terrell Thomas and Aaron Hayden at the back last campaign. I like Morgan Feeney, but apart from that none of the other defenders are really standing out. I think Josh Williams has got some good attributes. I like his pace about him. Defensively can be a little bit questioned that time, but going forward certainly does look very good. And then into the midfield, there's a lot of wages that are spent in here, but again, a real lack of quality. I like Callum Whelan, but I think Embleton should be delivering more. I also think someone like Stephen Wern should be delivering more as well. I do quite like Harvey McAdam, to be fair. And then Adjiboye, I thought he was pretty good for Carlisle last campaign. Obviously, Junior Luamba, what he did in that playoff, was it a semi-final? I'm going to assume it was a playoff semi-final against Boreham Wood. Could have been the quarter. No, I'm pretty sure it was a semi-final. Absolutely ludicrous decision. No need for him to do that whatsoever. And in the end, it obviously did cost his side. And then, obviously, we've spoke about a lot of the other attackers. Regan Linney, very interesting one. Obviously, signed a 3-year deal with Carlisle in the summer, coming away from fellow National League side Altrincham. We know Carlisle have got the money to spend. Now he's 29 years of age and still got a further 2 years left to run in his contract. I think he's going to see out that length of time at Carlisle, and they're probably not going to see any type of return on their investment. But you actually look at Regan Linney's season on the whole, and he ended the season with 29 goal contributions, and that sounds absolutely incredible. Obviously, that is a really good return in 43 matches, but he did have a large period, in my opinion, where he just wasn't really doing it in the league. You look at basically from the end of September, where obviously Carlisle had 2 really disappointing results against York and also Rochdale as well. You look at his goals in the league, and there is a real lack of goals on the whole. He's still popping up with the odd assist here or there. Obviously, he was out of the side for a little bit, but then March is where he really ended the season very well. So is Regan Linney one of those types of players that it only really works for him in the sun? And I know that obviously a lot of sides have realised if you kind of put 2 or 3 players on Regan Linney and mark him out the game, Carlisle don't really have another way of playing. And again, that all does come down to the manager, Mark Hughes, and can he get the best out of the rest of his squad? And we know Carlisle have got the finances and the money to be able to spend, and in the end they did achieve 95 points, which in most regular seasons would see you be promoted. But unfortunately for them, York and Rochdale were just a lot better. It's not even a case of Carlisle got unlucky. They ended up finishing nearly 20 points behind the eventual winners, York City, but they obviously had an outstanding season. But I think if Carlisle get their defensive recruitment right this summer, I think they're going to need to improve in near enough every position. I think they need another goalkeeper to really compete with Gabe Breeze, could do with another right back, definitely need a starting centre back and a bit more squad depth there. They need a starting left back, a couple of starting midfielders. I think going forward, a front three of someone like an Adjiboye, a Kelly and a Linney really is not a bad front three when you've got the likes of Armstrong also then coming on off the bench. But again, they need a bit more squad depth in there. The likes of Chris Conclark, just that loan move really did not work out, and I'm interested to see what happens now with him obviously being contracted to Peterborough. Carlisle doesn't look like they're going to take up that option to buy for him as well. So I think there's certainly business to be done for Carlisle this summer, and again on free transfers it's certainly going to be an easier window for them given that they've got one of, if not the biggest budgets in the National League next season. So I'm interested to see where it does all work out, but who is going to be the manager for that Carlisle side? When we're having a look at the possible different types of options, I've seen some Carlisle fans maybe suggesting a return of Paul Simpson, but I think that ship certainly has sailed now, and I think Carlisle need to start looking forward and towards the future. Could they see somebody like a Lee Bell come in from Crewe Alexandra? I think he's done quite well there to work on one of the smaller budgets in the division. They rely a lot on developing young players. They play a possession-based style as well. Carlisle fans, let me know down below as well, what sort of style are you hoping for? Obviously, if it's getting results on the pitch, you're not really going to be bothered if it's a Jim McNulty or a Gareth Ainsworth style of play, but what do you like? I know that clubs like MK Dons, for example, they like possession-based sides, but teams like mine, my Bradford City side, we don't really like possession-based sides, and it's not necessarily about the results sometimes, it's also about performances on the pitch. But I don't think Lee Bell would be a bad appointment whatsoever. I also think somebody like a Carl Robinson, I think that would be a pretty decent fit for Carlisle United as well. But there's really not that many managers that are currently employed at a club that I think, yeah, that's exactly who Carlisle need to go for. They maybe missed the boat a little bit with not getting Darryl Clark, and he's obviously gone to Tranmere Rovers, and I think he is a pretty decent manager. But then we're also thinking about some of the managers who are currently free agents. You could potentially think about somebody like a Lee Bowyer, who did a really good job with Charlton Athletic, getting them promoted into the Championship. They had a really effective style of play in what was not on paper a team with the biggest budget or the best players, and I think Lee Bowyer, for me personally, that would be my standout pick. I know he's not managed England for a couple of years now, but I really think that could be one that really does work. He's one of those, in terms of his playing career, really got what it meant to play for those type of clubs like your Bradfords, your Carlisles, your Rotherhams, these type of teams where they're proper proper working class type of cities, and you need to see that reflected with the team's performance on the pitch. And for me personally, I would be looking at going and get Lee Bowyer, because he hasn't managed since 2025, where he was with Montserrat, and obviously prior to that was with Birmingham for a couple of years, and had a 3-year stint at Charlton Athletic as well. But me personally, Lee Bowyer is my number 1 pick for Carlisle. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there then for today's video. If you have enjoyed, please make sure to drop a like on there for me, and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Can we try and hit 100 likes on today's video? And don't forget to get your thoughts in down in the comment section down below. Let me know down below, who do you think should be the next Carlisle United manager? Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon for another one.